Hey guys, I'm Katie Elzer Peters, and I'm the owner of the Garden of Words LLC, which is a green industry digital marketing firm. And we do all kinds of digital marketing, email marketing, website building, e-commerce, etc. And I'm really excited to be here to talk to you today with Stephanie Monti. So, Stephanie, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Stephanie Monti. I am Katie's right hand, sometimes called a change agent. I help integrate by slipping into any and all needed roles at any time to get it done. I do specialize in WooCommerce and e-commerce sites in general as well. And so today we're going to be talking about transforming from a brick and mortar, meaning a physical location, to selling your stuff online in e-commerce business. There's all sorts of forms of them, so we'll go over all the caveats and the small things, but we're going to start out. Let's hear from Mark from Organic Mechanics discussing some of the core business issues he runs into running his e-commerce site. Take it away, Mark.
So for us, we're a potting soil manufacturer. That is what we do. That is our bread and butter. And your core business is either brick and mortar retail or wholesale, whatever it is. You want to spin that flywheel as fast as you can, continue to get better at what you do, your core thing, what it is that you do. And if you try to just launch into e-com by yourself, it really is like another arm of your business. I mean, that's the easiest way to look at it. It's a whole other entity that you have to keep track of. You can't be out of stock. You can't be out of inventory.
Okay, we just heard from Mark, and I wanted to highlight again the minutia he's dealing with, talking about being out of inventory. And it's a really great tip that if you are carrying in-store inventory and selling that same inventory online, that you go ahead and say that you're out at 20 or create some system to make sure that you either differentiate the SKUs for what you're going to sell online versus in store so that you don't run out. Next, we're going to talk about open source versus proprietary software. Open source software can be modified by anyone in the source code. WordPress is a really well-known example of it. Open source software is known for being more flexible. You can do almost an infinite amount of things in it. However, usually what happens is if you don't have a developer that kind of holds you back from the bells and whistles, you can just keep building and building and building, and the project never gets done and it becomes expensive. So having a good plan for that is important, because if you ask during an open source software build, can it do this? The answer is always yes. So then it becomes, do you have the time to do that? And is it really necessary? Proprietary software is different because it's a closed system. It's managed by one set of users with that specialty. There's not as much flexibility. However, when you want something to work, they guarantee that it'll work. Tech support is included. And so though you lose some flexibility, you gain the ability to be narrowed on purpose by people that are choosing what they think will work best for you and with the system and what most users are choosing. So this can be a little higher bar to entry on cost, but in the end, we are software agnostic, meaning we try to choose the best solution for the needs of the customer. So we're going to take it off here listening to Andrea from Contained. She chose to go with open source software, WooCommerce, to get her business online. Take it away, Andrea.
I really wanted something to be completely customizable. And another goal I had was to keep our members on our site and not to have to go to a different web page to purchase tickets or subscriptions to our services. So to go with a completely customizable site, it was great for our members to be able to have full access to our digging and gathering site along with purchasing their events. It was a good move for us because it gave us complete control over the content and the layout for what we wanted for our group, which was definitely worth it for us.
Thanks, Andrea. So if you noticed there when she was talking, she talked a lot about flexibility, and she talked a lot about moving from a platform so she could control everything. Now we're going to kind of hear about proprietary software and the challenges and benefits from Nick from Easy to Grow Bulbs. Take it away, Nick.
Cost was a big factor when we transitioned to SaaS platforms. The numbers can seem very large and scary considering you're kind of taking a gamble as you invest in your software, but in order to handle the sales that you're predicting. In our case, we've definitely found value in our SaaS programs. And it's also about how much you use them, you know, like if you have to invest in yourself and learning the program so that you're able to take advantage of all the features and services that are offered. As a Shopify Plus member, you know, we have an account manager who kind of helps us identify the best apps, developers, and solutions that we can for our business. Some cons that we have is the fact that it is a closed loop system. There's some customizations and some features that definitely fall short on an out-of-the-box solution. Luckily, working with Shopify, a lot of those are on their roadmap for growth.
Okay, we just heard from Nick. Thank you, Nick. We heard from him about the benefits and the challenges of proprietary software. And so now I want to talk to you a little bit about your POS integration with your shopping cart. It is possible to do e-commerce without POS integration. It just does create some more administrative work, but it is possible, and it is advisable for you to talk with whomever you're working with on your website about your POS and how it will integrate, because if you can get it integrated, that's better. That's the best choice. So there are common issues with POS, which is just sometimes people are using an old shopping cart or an old POS system. If it's hard coded, if there's not an integration, but your web developer will be able to talk with you about that. You need to decide what you're going to track manually versus automatically, which is, are you going in and putting inventory in, or is it integrated with your whole system and it updates and syncs? Gotta make sure that you deal with the sales tax issue. You don't want a surprise come tax time. Once you get into e-commerce, you'll see exactly how many variations of your products you have and what you need to do about that. So you'll, again, need to narrow down what you're going to allow people to buy in variants online, and whether you're going to use wired versus a wireless system for security. So those are just some considerations. Mainly, I just wanted to remind you, don't go into e-commerce without thinking about your POS, and your web developer can help you with that. All right, so now we're going to pause for some questions.
So now it's time to go over the required resources, including personnel and money. So are you willing, or do you have the time to learn new technology? So if you can't, do you have someone who can? And if you grumble at things like the slowness of your computer, or you have trouble finding answers, typing into Google and using that on your own, trouble with email marketing, you're likely going to give up before you start. So having a good technology partner, at least one, if not two, is a great place to start. We're going to hear from Andrea here and her experience using a technology partner to help her get through the building process and maintenance of her e-commerce site. Take it away, Andrea.
So even though at the start of it, I wasn't exactly sure how to change everything or to fix things or to tweak things, it was great to have the web developer right at my fingertips. And that made me feel really good about it, because honestly, I'm not much of a tech savvy person. And that made me nervous when we went over to this completely customizable site. But after getting to know the web developer and knowing that they'd be right there for me, it really gave me peace of mind. And having Katie and her team being right behind me and every step of the way has just been the greatest thing I could have ever done. And they've been such a great team to work with, and it's been a lot of fun too. And trust me, I'm not someone that would say technology and fun in the same sentence, so that's saying a lot.
So that was a great insight from Andrea on how she felt using a web developer that was able to help her understand all the components and pieces she needed to be comfortable managing the site in her particular business. And so now we're going to talk about your likelihood of succeeding with a tech partner and the importance in choosing the right people to make e-commerce work. And this really can't be understated. So even if you will, and you likely will, hire a web developer to help you with that part, you still need people in your staff, in store, or as a remote contractor online who's comfortable with technology and actually able to manage the website for you. At minimum, the kind of people you're going to need would be data entry, someone to go ahead and keep taking pictures, adding new products, getting them up online, stuff like that. So in-house web manager, you can call it. You're going to need a developer, someone who can handle problems with your website, help you build it in the first place, and is there for you every step of the way, that can help you plan and process so that you measure twice and you cut once, and that you don't overbuild. Then you're also going to need an IT person or company to help you manage your physical things, like your physical computer or your router or your switch, because your web developer is not going to be able to fix your computer if it's not doing what you want it to. So now we're going to hear from Mark from Organic Mechanic, and he'll talk about the shopping cart that was built for him and his experience. Take it away, Mark.
Website shopping cart that was built for us through WooCommerce has been great. We tracked the shipping costs, haven't lost anything on shipping since we migrated over to the WooCommerce. Everything was dialed in, box sizes, weights of every single item. And when we double check that, it's all correct. So it's holding true, which is good. Once you set it up, you don't have to worry about it again, but there was a lot of setup time in the beginning, getting all that data.
All right, so we just heard from Mark and the stuff he faced while building his e-commerce website. And so now we're going to talk a little bit about the money end of this. So what funds are you willing to allocate towards your e-commerce development? You got to include the personnel time and the platform hosting costs. That's a consideration, and that's a little bit different when it comes to proprietary software like Shopify. Let's hear from Nick about his experience, about cost and the decisions he had to make using a proprietary platform versus using open source that we just heard from Mark. Go ahead, take it away, Nick.
Cost was a big factor when we transitioned to SaaS platforms. The numbers can seem very large and scary considering you're kind of taking a gamble as you invest in your software, but in order to handle the sales that you're predicting. In our case, we've definitely found value in our SaaS programs. And it's also about how much you use them, you know, like if you have to invest in yourself and learning the program so that you're able to take advantage of all the features and services that are offered. I go out of my way to make time to speak with my account manager bi-weekly. A lot of his customers, of his other clients don't. He says that he talks to them, you know, maybe once a quarter or once every 6 months. I think our company prioritizes maintaining our relationships with our SaaS providers because they have such a high price tag. We're constantly bouncing ideas off of them and trying to find the best practical and cost-efficient solutions that we can. Something that I've found personally beneficial when vetting SaaS programs is being able to like get a demo account, poke around, maybe get on a very low tiered plan just to kind of see if it's functionally going to work, and kind of get a plan together before making that leap into a larger, a more substantial account that has more features or whatever. I think it's really important to vet it yourself or have a consultant vet it for you so that you kind of know what you're getting yourself into before making that leap. In terms of cost and getting what you pay for, I would say look at multiple options, look at the pros and cons and what features you want or what might be missing. What are you willing to let go of in lieu of getting something better in terms of a feature? Poke around, play with it yourself. You're going to be your business the best, and you're going to be the best person to be able to determine what you should use. And if you don't quite understand everything 100%, then get a good consultant to, kind of bounce ideas off of and help you understand stuff better.
So great. We just heard the difference from Nick there talking about proprietary software. And now I want to go over the last two pieces that are critical to understanding your needs before you actually jump in and do stuff. So equipment's a big need. Do you have an adequate camera? Most smartphone cameras will work. You need to take product photos. Do you know how to transfer those product photos to your computer and get them off your phone? That catches a lot of people up. Is your computer fully updated with antiviral software and the latest versions of your web browser? Because it's going to be a big deal. You don't want to get stuck on the way. You want to take the pictures, load the pictures, get the pictures, crop them, do whatever you're going to do and get them up. Software is the second area to pay attention to. Do you know how to use Google Sheets? Does it make sense for you to use Google Sheets? You're going to share this with people. Do you know how to use Excel? Are you comfortable with Dropbox or Google Drive to transfer and store your files for uploading? Files for photos can get really big. Do you know how to size photos for the web? It's different. If you leave wet photos in huge sizes like 300 dots per inch and then you put them on your website, it's going to bog it down and you need to convert them. Is your website hosted on a reliable host that performs nightly backups? You don't want to lose all the hard work you did. So is your host doing that for you? And a big tip here is don't cheap out on your web host. $5 a month isn't going to cut it. Around $20 to $30 a month is average for a good host that has all the tools you need and will help you do the backups and everything that you're going to need to go. So don't try to save costs there. If the answers to any of these questions are no or little or none, you're first going to need to line up the resources to do those things or help you through getting those things done. Otherwise, you're going to set you up for frustration, potential security breaches, and failure in general. So now we're going to hear from Katie, and she's going to talk about process flow and management.
All right, thanks, Steph, for talking about the software and the equipment. Now it's time for my favorite thing, which is process and flow management. So when you run e-commerce, there are two things that we want to focus on with process and flow. One is the administration of it, which is the actual process and flow. You will have some increased administration costs. You'll need to have separate financial tracking, process documentation, which is basically a fancy way of saying who does what when, so everybody knows what their job is. The communication programs that you're going to use, do you use Slack? Are you texting each other, emailing, Trello, project management software? And then what online storage and sharing services do you have? Are you using Dropbox or G Drive? And then do you have the time, knowledge, and or resources and ability to hire the right people that can do this for you? Because I cannot overstate how important it is to have people that understand what their job is, are excited to do it, and are proficient in doing it to help with your success. The other part that a lot of people don't necessarily think about is that if you're doing e-commerce, you're going to have a whole separate set of online FAQs because they will have questions that are totally unrelated to brick and mortar. Like, what is your refund policy? How do they report bugs in the website? How do they ask you questions if they're having a problem with their online orders? Do you have a good idea about what problems that your customers might encounter? And do you have written policies about refunds and other terms of service? If you're doing e-commerce, you really need terms of service. Do you prefer that people call you or email you with questions? All of that needs to go into your FAQ. So Steph talked a little bit about inventory control, and so did Mark. We're going to hear from Mark again about his experience with inventory control in e-commerce when e-commerce is not the main arm of your business. So take it away, Mark.
Inventory management is a whole other thing, but I'm assuming that you have a good inventory system and you can know exactly how many of one item that you have. And if you think you have 100 of those items in stock, well, then list 20, sell out of the 20, and then put 20 more up instead of saying, oh, I think we have 100, let's put 100. Because inevitably someone will end up buying something and then you're out of stock. That's a whole mess.
So we just got done listening to Mark talk about inventory control with e-commerce, and now we're going to talk a little bit about the specifics of curbside pickup, because when we talk about e-commerce in a garden center, curbside pickup is pretty much your fulfillment method. Some people do shipping, some people do delivery. You guys are mostly doing curbside pickup, and so there are a couple different things you're going to need to keep track of, which is the order tracking, how the order comes in, how you process it, how you watch it move through the system, being picked and pulled and staged. And then again, the order picking and staging for fulfillment. And again, the fulfillment is, for you guys, it's curbside pickup. Now we're going to listen to Mark talk about how he is setting up his business for fulfillment when e-commerce is part of his business. So take it away, Mark.
We were getting charged and we didn't even realize it at first. And so we were losing money on that. It takes a dedicated person. You have to get the dedicated days for shipping is, I think, important, just because it makes you get the work done to get it out the door instead of being like, oh, it can wait till tomorrow. Oh, it can, because consumers hate that. And then they'll leave a bad post. And it's just, that's no good. You want to also have a dedicated place for the FedEx shipping. So all the supplies are there so that employees aren't looking around for things. They keep all the boxes, the tape, everything, multiple sizes of boxes, keep it all in one spot. It's your FedEx spot. Have one dedicated place for FedEx pickups on the property so that the FedEx or UPS driver, whoever it is, knows where to go every single time. Make sure it's covered by rain. So if it's raining that day, doesn't matter. They'll just pull up, get them and go.
Thanks, Mark. That was great information about how you stage and actually fulfill e-commerce orders. So now we are going to talk about customer communication, because that's a huge part of e-commerce. What customers can expect, how the process works when they place their order, how it works when they pick it up, when you're open, etc., and so forth. And COVID has made that all kinds of fun. And so now we're going to hear from Liz from Rockledge Gardens talking about what it's been like to communicate with their customers about opening hours and so forth during the time of COVID.
We had the biggest challenges when it came to our closing temporarily, when we actually closed to the public and went 100% curbside pickup and delivery. So we had a Facebook post that we pinned to the top of our page. We put it out on Instagram. Of course, it went into our email. But when it came to all of those directories where we are listed, for some, it was easier than others to signal to the public what's going on. And the biggest struggle was with Google. So with Google, when you're going in to make your COVID updates, you have the option to mark your business open, mark your business closed, or mark your business temporarily closed. And then there's a caveat when you go to mark your business temporarily closed that says, don't do this if you are offering curbside pickup and delivery, because that won't show up when people search for you if you mark your business as temporarily closed. So we just had to keep it as open. And then, we tried putting posts on Google. You can, in your Google My Business account, you can put posts. But if somebody's just doing a super quick Google search to see whether you're open or not, it's gonna say, this business is open and have our normal hours. And then it's gonna say, this business may be affected by COVID-19, please call for updated information. Well, of course, there are people who would not take the time to call or go to our website or, you know, whatever it was. So we did have a number of people who showed up at the business not having gotten the message that we were closed, and were pretty angry and upset when they found that we were not open.
Thanks, Liz. That was a really useful case example of communication and how it can be affected when you transfer to things online. So now we're going to wrap it up and get to some questions. So we're talking about embracing the change. So in going through all of this, this is just to get the juices flowing of all the things you're going to need to do to embrace this change, what kind of people and money and everything you're going to need. And then research the how. So if you don't know how to do something, research how that gets done. Find the titles so that you can find the who. And the who's going to help you do these things. Then you got to choose the when. So when are these things going to go into action in your plan? How much time are you going to give yourself to get it online? Can you tell your customers an expected launch date for these things? And can you plan in advance? Then all you got to do is take the leap. And so thank you everybody for attending today. We're going to open this up to questions.